Right, y'all. Here is another story of the surging amount of white women that are going to prison in America. Right now, the white woman is the number one woman getting arrested and placed in prison. Black women, it's actually declining. And I did that story before on my other channel. Poor, rural, and addicted. Drugs drive surge in white women in prison. And this woman is 30, and boy, she looks beat up for 30. Monica Graves, 30, had Friday morning off and a laundry list of things to do before her daughter's 16th birthday on Saturday. She needed trash bags to black out the windows at the party venue in Summerton, decorations her daughter had requested. She also wanted to buy a gift for the girl, a small cross on a necklace. Before she could tackle anything on her list, Grave had one important errand to run at the Walker County Courthouse. The building stands in the center of Jasper, fronted by a handsome gray facade, fountains, and fresh-cut flowers. Grave slipped around the back, past humming electrical boxes and down a wide concrete alley. A door led to a basement corridor filled with people, most of them women, who started lining up at 7 a.m. Some looked fresh out of high school, others might have been collecting Social Security. One fresh from an overnight shift as a nurse still wore scrubs. There are all kinds of people here, Graves said as she waved to friends. Walker County is 90% white, and the faces in the benches reflect one of the fastest growing inmate populations in the state, rural, drug-abusing women. Between 2002 and 2013, the number of white women in Alabama prison doubled. An analysis of a recent prison roster revealed that 9 out of 10 of the counties mostly send to women to prison have less than 100,000 residents. Most of them are white. For a couple of years, Grave has made this weekly pilgrimage to take a drug test and pay court fees. It's part of an agreement that kept her out of prison on charges of drug possession and third-degree burglary. When Graves took the deal, she faced a possible life sentence as a habitual offender. Drug charges already sent her to prison for almost 3 years. Strung out and suicidal, she weighed 98 pounds when she pleaded into the program. At first, she thought it might buy her some time as she devised an escape. It wouldn't have been the first time she had run, and every attempt seemed to bring her back to where she started. The beginning, Grave began looking for a way out as a child growing up in an abusive and chaotic home. It was dirty and dysfunctional, and she can remember times when the water bill went unpaid, drying the pipes that fed the home. When she was 14 years old, she thought she found her escape. Graves, a freshman in high school, got pregnant and married in a quick succession and moved in with her husband's family. After she gave birth, the doctor wrote a prescription to help with the pain. That was the beginning. The drugs fixed Graves in ways her baby could not. I realized when I took the pain medicine, everything would be fine, Graves said. My mind wouldn't race, or I would have courage to go out in public. I always felt like when I was out in public, people could see everything that ever happened to me. And so I could never really look the world in the eyes because I wore all the pain inside. So that it starts my addiction to pain pills. She started staying out late on the weekends to use with friends and then disappear altogether for days at a time. Grave became pregnant again. had the baby and got divorced. She was 16 years old. The life that I thought I had gotten away from, I was being driven right back to it. But this time, the two babies, Graves said. And so, just to kind of cover all that fear of having two babies in the house that I know is no good, I just drank more, I smoked more pot, I took more pills. Her life was spinning slowly out of control, and then it picked up speed. The women's prison population increased by 66% between 2002 and 2015, driven almost entirely by a surge in the number of white women behind bars. About 50% of women in prison have been convicted of non-violent offenses, according to data provided by the Alabama Sentencing Commission, compared to 25% for the entire prison population, which is more than 90% male. And as you can see, here's the black female inmates, which I told you was dropping every single year. And here's the white female inmate, and she's number one in the country. And like I said, nothing is being said about it anywhere in the media. The reason for the influx of white women into prison aren't entirely clear. Mark Maher, executive director of the Sentencing Project, has documented dramatic changes in the racial makeup of female prisoners across the country. He said tough sentencing for drug crimes account for much of the growth in the number of incarcerated women. And I just go to show you, there's more white women doing drugs than anyone else. Driven by the decline of crack, which was more prevalent in inner cities, and the rise of meth and opioids in rural areas. Incarceration is just one symptom of deeper problems affecting white women, especially those with little education who live in rural areas, Mara said. Demographicers last year noted a rare decline in life expectancy for this group, driven by a surge of death from alcohol, drugs, and suicide. Deaths among middle-aged women in small cities, towns, and rural communities have risen to almost, according to economists Ann Case and Angus Deaton. Many of the same things that are killing rural American women, including mental illness and substance abuse, are also sending them to prison, Maher said. The loss of factory and architecture jobs have jolted Alabama community once anchored by coal mines, lumber mills, and textile plants. Jobless residents increasingly turn to drugs and crime. Well, a lot of black people have suffered unemployment more than anyone else in this country. I don't know why they're struggling so bad. They've had everything handed to them. Rural communities are now struggling with the same problems that used to be linked to inner cities, Mara said. Black communities have hit with economic problems for the last 100 years, longer than that, actually, he said. There may be more support from churches and within the community for people who are struggling in Black communities. That's not necessarily true. Some of these white communities are dealing with these problems for the first time. And this also proves they've had so much privilege. Here we are in 2017, and they're feeling hard times for many of them for the first time. A nighttime drive when she was 18 led Graves arrest charges of marijuana possession. A judge sentenced her to probation, which included a regimen of regular drug tests. It didn't keep her clean, and Graves routinely violated the rules. She picked up more charges, and all of them minor and tied to drug abuses. This is why, you know what, this is exactly why there's so many people on crack in jail. They did nonviolent crimes to themselves and they're still sitting in prison. But this woman is a multiple offender and she's just getting a string of probation. Judges extend her probation, adding months of supervision to her original sentence. And you see, it's not getting her off the drugs, is it? They're just putting a Band-Aid on it. Okay. Graves had another baby, an overload on GHB, a popular party drug. Probation officers sent her to rehab where she thrived. You see that? She got caught being on drugs again and they put her in rehab, still didn't go to jail. She made up 3 years of high school in 12 months and even learned American Sign Language. When she came back to Walker County, she fell back into drugs and got pregnant again. All right, so this is baby number 4. And remember, she is a single woman at this point, and she's having all these babies in which they bash black women about. The volume of her despair rose to a level even the drugs couldn't muffle. When she was 7 months pregnant, she tried to kill herself with a bullet to the head. A fluke of the ballistics. She and her baby survived. The bullet missed her brain and all major vessels. After her release from the hospital, Graves appeared in court, her head shaved, swollen, and burnt by gunpowder. The judge sent her to prison. I mean, that man's voice cracked when he sentenced me to prison, Graves said. Yeah, because he felt something because you were someone like him. His voice wouldn't have cracked if it was a black person. Trust me on that one. All right, so this just goes into Walker County, and of course, they're going through the highest drug overdose deaths between 2012 and 2014. All right, so I'm gonna go down a bit because it's just talking about her life, and I want to get away from that. Okay. Grave found many women like herself inside prison, poor, rural, and addicted. Many like her and also, had kids back home. About 75% of the women in prison in Alabama are primarily caretakers of children, compared to just 4% of the men, according to Jennifer Kinney, criminal justice professor at the University of Alabama. Women are really the fastest growing prison population, Kinney said. And the primary driver is the war on drugs. I didn't know there was a war on drugs when it came down to Caucasoids. I thought that only applied to black people. So this must be new, or they're doing it in this particular place in Alabama, which is kind of surprising. Okay. And then you can see the women here. Women incarcerated for drugs may receive some treatment in prison, Grave did, but she didn't trust the lessons to keep herself clean after her release. So she ran instead of checking in with a parole officer. After 6 months on the run, she was captured and returned to prison for more than a year. After that, she had community corrections and another shot at rehab. The drugs kept their pull, and Graves struggled to shed an anti-authorization toughness she picked up in prison. She cleaned up and then relapsed and shattered her efforts to reestablish relationships with her children. So she just been in and out of, struggling with drugs and rehab and prison. And, she just kind of got caught up in not being able to get away from the drug habit or the system that was imprisoning her. But that's the same story with Black people. And this just go to show you, ladies and gentlemen, how this whole thing has now reversed on them. If you didn't believe the curses were on these people, believe it now. Believe it now, ladies and gentlemen, because this curse on them is real and it's only going to get worse. We are the people of the Bible, and you see how bad we had it since we've been in this country. These are not even his people. Can you imagine the carnage they are going to have to face that's far worse than what they're in now? Woo, I tell you. I'm going to leave the link to this article in the description box, and you can tell me what you think in the comment section. Please leave your comment and subscribe, and if you can donate to my channel, please do. Peace, family.